George Anthony will tell you that he said a silent prayer that it was neither his daughter or his granddaughter that he would find in the trunk of that car. Simon Birch, who you will learn has spent many years in the tow business and has seen and heard and smelled just about everything associated with a car, including when someone committed suicide inside a car and it sat for days. So Simon Birch will give you his opinion based on this experience about what that smell was. And as that's going through his mind, and he hears George Anthony making these statements about his missing daughter and granddaughter, Simon Birch as well is hoping that they're not going to find a body in the trunk. And when the trunk is open, there's a bag of garbage inside. And you will hear that Simon Birch took that bag of garbage and threw it over a fence at Johnson's Wrecker and eventually placed it into a dumpster there. George Anthony got into that car, drove it home. When Cynthia Anthony had her first contact with the car, her words to George Anthony were, "Jesus, what died?" At which point, her husband proceeded to tell her that there had been garbage in the car. So George and Cindy Anthony go back to their house on Hope Spring Drive. Now, obviously frustrated about the fact that this car is not in Jacksonville, where Casey said she was with Caleb. And that it had been, they learned, at this tow yard since June 30th. So they knew she was lying. George Anthony had to be at work at 3 o'clock that afternoon. They put the car in the garage at their house to air out. Cindy Anthony goes back to work as well and is communicating about the smell to her coworkers. And they eventually convince her she needs to call the police. Cindy Anthony texts Casey Anthony about 4:30 that afternoon that there's a major problem, that she needs to contact her. In the meantime, while all this is going on with George and Cindy Anthony, Casey Anthony is happily in her friend Amy Huizenga's car, because days earlier, Amy had taken a trip to Puerto Rico. And now Casey has her car. And on July 15th in the afternoon, Casey Anthony makes an appointment for another tattoo, tells the guy at the tattoo place that she's going to bring Kaylee in with her when she gets this tattoo, is captured on a Bank of America surveillance video, cashing a check about 1:30. As she's driving to the airport, she speaks with a woman, a girl, a young lady by the name of Erica Gonzalez. Gives Erica the impression that Kaylee's in the car with her. When she picks up Amy, she tells Amy that she got a call from Kaylee Anthony that day on her cell phone. And eventually, Amy Huizenga drops off Casey Anthony at her boyfriend, Tony Lazzaro's apartment. Amy Huizenga, you will hear from the testimony, goes with friends of hers in her car to the Florida Mall. And Cindy Anthony is at home, trying to figure out a way to get in touch with Casey Anthony. And so she goes through items that were left in the car. Kaylee's car seat was in the car. Casey Anthony's shoes are in the car. Some clothes are in the car. There are dryer sheets in the car. There are items in the trunk, in a bin in the car. There is a bag that Cindy Anthony thought Casey used for work. And in that bag is contact information for Amy Huizenga, who Cindy Anthony never met. So Cindy Anthony calls Amy Huizenga and asks if she's seen Casey or Kaylee. Well, Amy just saw Casey. She knows exactly where she is. And even though the two had never met, Cindy Anthony on that day, on July 15th of 2008, is not going to be denied access to her granddaughter to the point where she is tracking down her daughter Casey's friends. Despite some hesitation, and because of the sound in Cindy Anthony's voice, Amy Huizenga agrees to allow Cindy Anthony to come pick her up at the Florida Mall. And Cindy Anthony drives down there, gets Amy in the car, is telling her all about what's been going on. And Amy directs Cindy Anthony to Tony Lazzaro's apartment. Amy goes up to the door with Cindy behind her, knocks on it, and gets Casey Anthony out of there. Kaylee Anthony's not there. Where is Kaylee Anthony? You will hear that Cindy Anthony basically pulls Casey out of there without her phone, without her belongings. And she gets in the car. They drop Amy off. And at this point, Cindy Anthony is not going to be denied access to her granddaughter, who has now been gone for a month. Casey Anthony tries the same old Zanny story with Cindy. But Cindy Anthony will not be denied access to her granddaughter. And since Casey Anthony is stonewalling, telling her mother she doesn't want to upset Kaylee, she doesn't want to disrupt this routine that she's now in, Kaylee's going to be upset, Cindy has had enough and decides that the only way I am going to get access to my granddaughter is to get the police involved. So she drives Casey Anthony in her car to a substation of the Orlando Police Department, which at that time of the night is closed, and makes her first 911 call from her car, from the parking lot of that Orlando Police Department substation.